Greetings, pal. We're the Wolf Gamer 25, and we're back again for another riveting section of Figure Friday. And what a lovely day it is, huh? My apologies, folks. I would very much like to say I'm very happy to I'm sorry, very happy to report that today this will be episode number 20. That's right, the big 20, folks. 20 successful episodes. Well, not necessarily successful, because hey, we've had a few ups and downs. It's been a long road, but hey, here we are now at episode big 20. And I would very much like to say thank you to those who have subscribed to my channel, who have stayed with me ever since. And I invite you guys to sit back, relax, kick your feet up, have something to drink. If you don't have anything to drink, please feel free to go and help yourself. Have something to eat if you haven't eaten. Please do your boy a favor, huh? Relax, mellow out. Because for today, on this particular episode, we will be taking a step in somewhat of a completely new direction. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a fan of many, many things, Marvel, DC, heck, even Star Wars. But for today, I figured that we take a step, in a road that's completely past all those. Um, because this particular road that we're taking is gonna be filled with, well, how can I put this? A lot of dirt, and a lot of dirt, a lot of post-apocalypticism. But also, we're going to be introducing one of my favorite Figma figures that I procured because he's a legend, and I'll get into that later because I'm going to take a spin on it today. And instead of introducing the old figure first, I'm going to introduce the two new Funkos that I procured, and I invite you guys to enjoy them with me, huh? And feel free, as I said, I'll give you a few minutes if you want to. Feel free to go grab something to drink, have something to eat. Heck, I'm not going anywhere. You got me for the duration of the time. Heck, and don't worry, I got me some drink right here. Don't worry about it. I'd like to welcome you back if you are watching. So, this particular two Funkos, they're coming out of one of my favorite movies. I understand that the previous movies before this one in particular, they're older and they're not. I'm not gonna say they're my taste because I didn't watch the older versions of this movie, but I'm glad that I ran into this one mainly because it had one of my favorite actors in it, who was well, actually two. Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy. Of course, you guys know them both very well. Tom Hardy is best known for Venom and all that good stuff. Charlize Theron, I remember her from a lot of movies, too many to list, but we don't need to get into that. And as I said, the direction that we're going in, yes, it's going to have a lot of dirt. It's going to have a lot of craziness. But at the same time, we're taking a step into the world of filming industries. That's right, folks. So why don't we just skip the jibber jab and get right into this, huh? Now, of course, you all know the movie series Mad Max, right? Came out way back in the day. I remember one of those films had Mel Gibson in it. It circles around a post-apocalyptic world. It was usually supposed to be taken after the fall of civilization, and particular individual known as Immortan Joe. He took control of the apocalyptic survivors, basically turning them into his own little, how can I put this? His own little city per se, because everybody who was in there, they had certain roles. His own little city per se, because everybody who was in there, they had certain roles, and unfortunately, most of them were not up in the hierarchy of living like he was. Not up in the hierarchy of living like he was, of their water source, and he called it hydroplaning, if I remember right, or I can't remember in particularly what it was called, but hey, we're gonna skip past those older generation movies. Forgive me for that. We're just gonna get right into the newer version, which was called Mad Max Fury Road. I like this one in particular because to me it stood out more. I felt that there was a lot more emotion in the movie. I understand most people didn't like it because it felt like it was a little bit too fast paced because they tried to cram a lot. I understand most people didn't like it because it felt like it was a little bit too fast paced because they tried to cram a lot of scenes together. But to me, it was good. I liked it. It was full of action. It was full of drama. It was full of good and bad. Also, it's full of pain and misery. But when you have all of those and you can add them all into one movie, then you're gonna get a good combination, and you're gonna want to watch it over and over. Which is why I'm rocking this classic shirt right here, the Jaws, because the Jaws series to me, the very first one. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I watched it at a young age. I can't remember when the first time, and the shark scared the hell out of me because I actually thought that there was a shark like that existed in the waters around that time. And but sure enough, sadly, I grew up with the possibility of something lurking in those deep, murky waters. I don't overlook the fact that a megalodon really did exist. But I'm straying. Oh, I'm straying. We need to get back to Fury Road. Now, as I said once before, this one it still takes place in post-apocalyptic world. It still features the same person who was known as Immortan Joe. Only he's a little older, a little more seasoned. Um, Unfortunately, his old age is catching up to him. He can't move very well like he used to, but he still holds a tight grudge on the people who live below him. And in order to do that, in order to not necessarily earn their trust, he basically pumps the water up from the ground and gives it to them in small portions, as it were, enough to where they can't even get by on one day. And instead, this one in particular, the first one I'm about to introduce, um, she was known as his imperator. And basically, what her job was to travel to the other post-apocalyptic civilizations. Um, the only ones I know of there were two of them. There was the Bullet Farm and Gastown. Now, the way it worked in this between the three civilizations was that particular individual had to take a war rig or basically a semi with that's basically souped up to withstand anything that can happen in the desert. Which, of course, anything can happen out there in this movie. But why don't we skip all that and just get right to who she is? Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Miss Furiosa. That's right, folks. And as I said, with an armored convoy over to the gas town and Bullet Farm to bring back ammunition and, of course, gas for all vehicles of all kind. Mainly that included not just the war rig, but all of the other vehicles. Like I know there was some dirt bikes. I know there was also Immortan Joe's big souped up little dune buggy beetle, which that was cool. I'm not gonna lie, that was a good looking car. But why don't I give you guys a look at this? Notice the markings on her face. That's actually what she would use to be incognito, or as she called it. I mean, I don't really think it's called incognito because I knew who she was from the beginning. And if also you'll notice here, she's missing an arm, and of course she's rocking the shotgun. But I know that she was missing her arm because I don't remember if it was a birth defect, because she was separated from her mother, and she was found basically by Immortan Joe and branded by him. Unfortunately, when you get branded by Immortan Joe, you belong to him. Sad, cruel fact, Furiosa, I'm sorry. But there was also some good in her because she wasn't just a heartless imperator. No. Because on that particular day when she decided to go to Gastown, she also took something from Immortan Joe to basically try and, how can I put, transport something that was more precious to a place away from him. because Immortan Joe, he was a nasty person, but he also kept a vault in his home, in his living. And in the vault, he had ladies. Now, the only in particular reason he had these ladies, which of course you can probably guess, breeders, because he was trying to have some Lily Joes running around, as if he didn't have enough with all his, dead people walking around him, his slaves, of course, and his younger protector, Rictus. Anyways, um, she basically yeah, I was gonna say teleports. I caught it. She transports them in her war rig, trying to get them back to the place where she was born, which was known as the Land of Many Mothers. And in that particular instance, she she didn't know the fact that she was already too late. She was already too late. She had spent too much time away, and the Land of Many Mothers actually went downhill, and it became a nasty, just a hellish part of the world. It was all dead. It was murky. But why don't we just skip all that, huh? I'm not trying. I'm not trying to down this time. This is a good time, and we're just gonna keep right on trucking. Let me just. Okay. Now, next one I'm about to introduce. He is a drifter, but he's also a badass in my opinion, because I'm pretty sure you can probably guess where I'm going with it. He was picked up. Well, not necessarily picked up. I'm gonna stick off mainly because one day in the desert, he was caught by one of Joe's squadrons, and it was basically taken back to his headquarters or his land, his dwelling, of which where he was, and he was given a makeover, and he was used, unfortunately, in many ways that he didn't really like to be used, because in that world there's a code that I noticed whenever, say, like how modern days we have like our licenses and everything, that it lets us know if it's either like a donor or not. Basically, what they would do is they would tattoo all of that information on the back of the person who was caught, or if anything else, to be identified if they're going to be out there doing driving in the world, in the post-apocalyptic world. But you know what? Why don't we just skip all that? Because, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give you one of the main protagonists of the story of Mad Max Fury Road, Max. His name is Max. That's his name. Now, I liked Tom Hardy's role in this one in particular for a lot of good reasons. Because yes, he was a drifter. Yes, he wasn't necessarily looking to save anyone or anything. He was basically looking for redemption, because before he came to Joe, I know that he had an extremely traumatic past. I know there was many deaths actually, from where he came from before he came up to Joe's world, and unfortunately, those still haunted him to the day. And until he was able to help Furiosa on her mission, and of course, he was able to find solace in that and let them go. Mr. Max. Oh, sorry. As you can see, he's rocking his classic look. Wait. There we go. He's got a pistol in his hand, of course. And of course, you'll notice the little scar tissue right there up on his eye. Now, I like the transition that they did with him, because he came from like a Outland loner to shaved in, and they gave him a haircut. And he also went to Universal Donor, which was used, unfortunately, on they used his blood to basically fuel into another in particular individual in the film. You guys know him as Nux. I couldn't find him, unfortunately, but hey, he's out there somewhere, and I'll find him. And when I do, we'll be back definitely in this one. But besides all that, I like I like the fact what they had to do with him, because in order to fuel Nux, what they had to do was connect needle to needle basically feeding Max's blood into Nux's system. And to me, that just sent up a huge red flag because, like, you never know what kind of blood you get when you try to combine it with somebody else. But at the same time, Nux, he was already a corpse per se, but he was kind of like the living dead, if I was going to put it to you in layman's terms. And I like the fact that they gave him his Outland look, which he took back. And they always they gave him the pistol, they gave him the wrap around his arm. That was always a redeeming factor for him. And what I like about him is that it's a suspense thing with him because during the film, out of all that time, he never said his name once. Now, everyone else around him, mainly the spirits who talked to him, they said his name all kinds. I didn't want to believe that was his name at first until he said it from his own lips. And that just, like, it set the tone for the movie and just, wow, you know? But, anyways, enough of Fury Road, because now we're going to move on to one of my personal favorites. Now, this particular individual, he's known throughout lifetimes. He's a legend. He was a legend back then. He's a legend to this day, even though he's gone. But he's also known for doing such things as directing and acting. But it's not just that. He was a master martial artist, a director, philosopher, screenwriter, producer, and one of the founders of one of the main newest fighting styles today, known as Jeet Kune Do. And everybody knew his son, which he starred in a movie in the 90s called The Crow. Also, everybody knows him as Brandon Lee. But this in particular individual was the father. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the legend and the founder of Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee. As you can see, he's rocking his Enter the Dragon look. Now, the reason I call him such a legend was because he did a lot of things he did a lot of things for his family. He did a lot of things for the world. He was able to bridge the gap between East and West. And that, to me, it sets a lot of things apart from the world today, mainly because back then, around that time, he was seen as a simple Chinaman. Unfortunately, he had a gift, but no one else could see it but him. But he was able to mold the gift into something that the world knows today. As I said. But I look to him as a mentor and just someone I look up to, because if it wasn't for him, he taught me that the world basically looks at you different in every single way. But it's up to you to show them that you're different in some way and that you are going to change the world in some way. Sure enough, he did. Everybody knows who he is. He made all kinds of films, one of great many proportions, such as like The Green Hornet, Enter the Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, all of that. And I remember he stepped into the dojo with a lot of famous actors. One of them in particular, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, his tall self was, oh my goodness. I also know one of the most well-known fights between him and another in particular, a particular actor, which most people call it when he went one-on-one with Chuck Norris back in the day, when they were both in their prime. I'm sorry, guys. This is one of those things that I can rant about for basically minutes to hours on end. As I said once before, he did so throughout his life. I'm only saddened the fact that his life, but to this day, he's still well known. Everybody knows who he is. Everybody knows what he did, and everybody knew his son. Unfortunately, it was tragic what happened to him, but everybody relives their memories every time, either when, say, they watch their movies, when they read their magazines, when they read biographies, or heck, even when they go out and get one of his training manuals, because he was under the instruction of Master Ip Man, and he was the one of the main students of his. Now, it's not the fact that he didn't accept Ip Man's trainings. It's just he felt that he could take the training that he was given and mold something better. not better per se, because it's just it rivals both of them, both Ip Man's and Bruce's. But the most every time he got angry, what the? But anyway, also he's a very famous inspiration to a lot of filming, to a lot of TV shows. You see him in. I actually remember a lot of Family Matters episodes that featured a tribute to Bruce. Of course, where it was Steve Urkel who's dressed as Bruce Lee, and he tried talking just like him, and that was just beautiful. Those are always my favorite episodes. I'll never be able to ever get bored of them. Whew. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off here, guys. I do hope that you guys enjoyed the stream. I do hope you guys enjoyed the showcase of the Funkos and the figures. If you like, feel free to hit that follow button when it gets up there in just a moment, and smash that like button if you do. And I appreciate those who came by. I appreciate those who dropped the like. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay awesome, stay weird, and stay yourselves. Peace.